Okay, give me a second. I'm setting up front. Okay, so we are live. So that's great. So on my end, for the past 2 weeks, it's been recurrent transfers, basically. I've had a lot of back and forth with the Brocktrace team, doing updates here and there. We are still at it, I think. I'm not sure when Bartek will finally merge it, but I think it's looking good because we have less and less comments. But yeah, it's mostly about that and preparing the next phase of recurrent transfer, RC delegations. But I guess we will talk about this as well. Yes, that's about it for me.
Okay. Well, we've mostly been focused on Hive for the past little bit. We've completed the conversion, the new operation for converting Hive to HPD, and finished all the tests for that, and that's all merged in. We also made the change so that interest is only paid on HBD that's in savings accounts, and that's also merged in. We've done the curation reward changes, and for the most recent, we've been generating a bunch of simulations just to verify the results work as expected. And there's like a spreadsheet that we've got some of those results in that's also been committed as part of the update. Let's see. There was a request to clear the memo key for the hive.fund account because that account was originally created by Smooth, and apparently the memo key had never been cleared. I don't think this is a really big deal, but we just went ahead and did it anyway, so that's included in recent commits. We've made some changes to the way CMake configuration build options. Previously, there were a lot of different configurations that for building Hive-D, and a lot of them really had no use. So we've eliminated them down to just the ones that are actually practically useful now, just to simplify. When somebody comes along and needs to make a build, they'll build a proper version that would, be most useful to anybody. There's been some miscellaneous improvements to the reporting and debugging capabilities for unit tests. Just things we just saw some need for that while we were messing with unit tests themselves, writing them and everything. We did some cleanup to the replay options, the command line options for doing replays. So now when you do a force replay, you don't also have to tell it you have to include the replay option itself. And also it takes care of deleting the old shared memory file. So you don't have to manually do that anymore. There was a request to include the proposal ID and some of the APIs, the proposal related APIs. And so that was by inertia. And so we made those changes. We added another request was to add some new constants, some of the new constants that we've associated with new features to the get config API. And that's done, but we're also making a change so that in the future, this API will get auto-generated, so new constants will automatically get added to it without having to manually code that anymore. And another thing we did was we re-allowed voting on old posts after the voter window, after the payout period is expired. That was just we're reverting back to the earlier behavior. So that's, and then of course we've been doing reviewing the recurrent transfers with working with Howell on that. Beyond that, on Hive-D, we've also been doing some testing of various things. Just some of the new people we've got working are testing various features of Hive-D and just adding some more tests and seeing where might be problems. So I'll talk about that some other time. But one of the things that did turn up in that was we fixed the problem with some duplicates in the account history that got reported. And we found out the way that was happening. Basically, there was the account history, things get saved off after the last irreversible block. They get saved off to the RocksDB database for the account history. And that notification that forces that save was too early in the code before it was truly irreversible. So it could happen basically if a micro fork happened and it had already put something in the fork into the RocksDB database. Then when we reverted the fork, it wouldn't, it wouldn't remove it out of the database again, because once it's in the database, it's there. And then if it replayed and played that transaction again, so that's how we were getting duplicates sometimes. And that's why it could be different on different nodes, because it depends on whether that node experienced the fork or not, for instance. So we've got a fix for that, and that'll be included, I think, in the next day or so. Let's see. So that's kind of all the Hive work that we've been working on. We've also been doing some more stuff in HiveMind. The community mute fix problem was merged into develop, and we also made a fix for the list community roles API problem that was reported, and also the pinning bug, where if you had too many posts pinned inside of a community, that caused a viewing problem, a display problem. So with all the HiveMind fixes, we're probably going to do a release of HiveMind pretty soon. So this week we'll be testing all the changes on api.hive.blog. So we'll basically build, run a full sync of it, and then set that up on our node just to test to be sure it's working okay. And if everything looks good there, and after we've run regression tests and performance tests on it, we'll probably roll that out. I'm guessing either Friday or early next week, assuming no problems are found. So that'll be an update for all the API node operators for HiveMind. On Hive side of things, I think the way it looks right now is probably Wednesday is going to be when we want to do the sort of semi-code freeze and launch the test nets. So we need to get it. I think the only change that's still out there right now that we need to get merged in is recurrent transfers, and also one of those other things that I said we've done, but we haven't actually merged into develop yet, and I forget what it is off the top of my head. So those two, and I think what I'm expecting is we run Hive the test nets for about a month, and after about 2 weeks in there, I think we can notify the exchanges that we're planning to actually update to the hard fork. So I'm guessing the hard fork will be most likely to happen in about 1.5 months, assuming no issues at this point. Let's see, anything else? We also have been doing some work in modular HiveMind. The fork handling stuff in there is going along pretty well, but I don't have nothing new to report. It's just making good progress still, I guess. And other things I think we need to talk about are going to be what kind of changes we need in the core libraries, like the JavaScript libraries, Hive.js and Beam, etc. So I think that's probably just an open topic. I'm going to go over a couple of things that I know that we should be looked at, and then anybody else thinks of anything too. I guess we need to figure out that stuff can all start, I guess, about the time we launch the test net, because then they'll have something to test against. But just looking at things that need to be done, we'll need support for the new operation for converting to HBD. There's a couple of virtual ops associated with that, and there's a new API call for getting the collateralized, the pending collateralized transactions that are going to convert. The proposal ID, coming out of some new API calls, I don't know if there's going to need to be any changes in there. The get config API may also need some changes for those new constants. I don't really know. I think maybe you made an update proposal end date. So is there any Hive.js changes still needed for that? I think somebody said you might have made a change for Beam, but I don't know if Hive.js got updated for it.
I think I did Hive.js as well.
Okay, you did both.
Yeah, it is, so that's fine.
Okay.
On the API side, I think it's handled by default, actually, because it's just a wrapper, basically. It just shows whatever is sent back by the node. So I think for the get config API and the proposal ID thing, we should be good to go.
Yeah, I think obviously. Okay.
I don't know about
Yeah, we'll obviously need one for the conversion. For the conversion function, we're gonna need some stuff done.
Yeah, here definitely.
There's also a couple new virtual operations. I don't know if any of those need any kind of special support or not. So there was virtual operations for voter expiration, but I think the big thing there is going to be the dynamic properties. There's a new feature like last government expiration vote, and the UIs are going to need to. This is more a UI thing. It's not a core library, but might as well talk about what the UI is going to do too. they're going to want to start displaying when voter expiration is coming due some way. So that's something that UIs are going to have to take a look at. Also, we probably, I don't need to check on that. I'm not sure if the decentralized list stuff, which is already in, it's been in for a while. I don't know if there's any changes needed for any of that. I think probably that's all just UI stuff too. I think we've got everything at least the Hive.js level. I don't know if Beam would need any changes for that or not. I just don't really know how that worked out. So that's something somebody should probably look at. Let's see, anything else? Merge request, mine. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for now. Other stuff going on, but it's too far in the future to really talk about at the moment.
Why would Beam need to support the decentralized list? I thought it was HiveMind only.
Well,
for the APIs, I guess.
The APIs, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. I guess that makes sense. But yeah, okay. So lots of topics. On all of the updates, I think it should be very straightforward to update because all in all, we really have very few new operations for the libraries. So I think it should be like a day or two of work to add everything. Because like realistically, we have recurrent transfers, a few new APIs to return like dynamic get config, etc.
Yeah, but I mean, it's adding the code and then testing it. It's probably more than a day.
Yeah, obviously, but like.
But yeah, it shouldn't take too long. I mean, I'm sure within a matter of a couple of days, that stuff can be wrapped up.
So on that end, that's fine. We should get it done via the testnet.
I mean, we're also going to want the UIs to update to handle all that too.
That's my point. Like the core libraries will be very quick, but the actual did we sync with the main contributor? I cannot say his name correctly, but Kurshu or something. Yeah, there you go. To do the updates for Hive.blog or condenser, or will you guys be doing it?
For which changes? You mean
the voter expiration, for instance?
No one's really said, so I don't think it's been decided yet. Okay. I will certainly talk to him and see.
And yeah, shouldn't that be implemented via HiveMind and via notifications? Because I feel like that would be the easiest to be cross-compatible across everything.
You mean for the voter expiration? I'm not sure there's much to it, really. I think that's all I don't think there's really any need for HiveMind to do anything. Basically, all we need, I think all the UIs will need is just to know when those votes are going to expire. And then after that, it's just one piece of information, right? It's all your votes are going to expire on this date. So, and that's there. So I think after that, they just look at that date and check the current time. And when it's getting, they can set up different warnings they might want to report it as it gets closer and closer.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't think there's any HiveMind work there.
Yeah, that's fair. So speaking of testnets, not really. Oh yeah, you want to talk, Gandalf?
What's that?
Oh no, I heard Gandalf typing, so I thought he was
okay.
Gonna talk. So yeah, first point is a very small one. Is like, should we add a testnet check on half-fork24 restore account functions, because it doesn't serve any more purpose and it adds a lot of useless logs. It's really not something that's useful.
So you just want to remove the test, or I'm not sure what.
No, I want to add a test so that it doesn't run when it's in a testnet, because it's trying to restore funds to accounts that don't exist since it's a testnet, and we will realistically never test that piece of code in a testnet ever again.
So you just want to avoid that code from running? That's what you're saying?
In a testnet, yes.
Yeah, I guess that's fine.
Because it brings like
no.
We really want this code, but just get rid of the message.
Yes. yes.
Why do you guys want the code?
We would like only to avoid spamming in the log.
Right, but I mean, why do you want the code, I guess, is my question.
Avoid messages, not avoid execution of that code.
Oh, just remove the messages? Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yes.
I mean, that was because, we want to treat the...
Because we want to have the code closest to the mainnet version also in testnet. So
Okay,
I don't
just in case
want-
somebody breaks something in the future, and
Yes, but I plan also to improve some testnet supply with mainnet data. So
okay.
Can you expand on that?
that can be really useful to have it very close.
Okay, yeah, no.
Okay.
You mean in terms of like the database fixtures that get created when you create a new testnet?
No, I have
No, I
some
think he means
different
more like
idea, but
mirroring. I think he's talking about like mirroring the data from the mainnet.
Oh yeah,
yes.
oh, yeah, that would be neat.
Anyway, that's better to have very close sources between mainnet and testnet, just to be sure that we are testing something really used.
Yeah, okay.
But of course, we are fine to avoid such messages, and that's okay.
Yeah, okay. So okay, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So I guess I'll put a pull request soon enough for that. It should be pretty straightforward. Sorry, you want it?
Yeah, I was going to say one more thing I just remembered. We're also renaming one of the functions that were new API calls that we're adding. Inertia requested the new function, which is current transaction match the get transaction signature, so to speak. So that's one other small change that should be merged in by Wednesday too.
Yeah, okay, I see. Cool. So yeah, then I wanted to talk about the status on the community account mutes in HiveMind, but apparently it's done.
That's done.
So
Yep.
that's great. Yeah, it's important for me because sooner in 2 months probably I'm gonna start working on the on a few additional communities types. So, and this was linked to it, so that's good. And then there was this thing that as I was thinking about the recurrent the RC delegations, I don't quite get why we allow people to not, to skip basically the RC tests. So I thought it was allowed to not run the RC plugin, but then Gadolf told me that it was a dependency, which is actually true. I checked just before the meeting, and so, but I don't get why we allow people to skip the enforcing it basically. Because
you mean why it's not part of consensus?
No, I mean I don't mind. I actually already got that answer, but why? Right now there is an option that allows you to just skip any RC checks, and I don't understand why there is such an option.
Well, if you're required to do RC checks, you're basically forcing consensus, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But then that's also my second point, is that why is that then? Because
so back to the question, why is RC not consensus?
Well, the only answer I got from that was that the system that it replaced, which was the bandwidth system, was on consensus, so it's not consensus as well. But that's not really answering the core question, I guess. So if you have any idea, I'm all ears.
I don't really know. I mean, I guess they weren't certain enough when it's, I don't know. I can't really answer for sure why.
Yeah, but so then my follow-up is like, should we make it consensus? Because
I'm going to say not now. We can bring this topic up later, but I don't know. I don't have a good idea.
I mean, definitely not now, but in a close future, because in the end, a lot of our scaling is like limited by RC, and if we allow rogue witnesses from running and like skipping the whole thing, and since we basically cannot prevent them from doing it, even if they get like one block every 2 days, it's still one block with which could allow like transactions that should never make it to the chain.
Yeah, there's no doubt that's true. But I guess I don't think it's an issue for now. If it does come up later, we can certainly address it. But it's kind of, it hasn't been a problem, and I don't see it likely to be a problem. I guess I'd put it that way.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like short term. It's more of a long term thing.
Yeah, maybe long term. Yeah, certainly possible.
So yeah, that was something I wanted to touch upon. Then Asgard wanted to talk about RC delegations / pools, and then Gadolf brought an interesting point, which is that so right now the RC delegation pools is still a work in progress, and it's complex by nature because we want to, I mean, I say we, but it's mostly me, want to allow a lot of use cases, and he brings up that basically 90% of the use cases can be converted by just a simple clone of HP delegations, where you just delegate RC instead of having a system where you all delegate to a pool, and the pool can then delegate to multiple people. And then there is this notion of over delegation, where you can delegate from the pool more RC than there is in the pool, and then everyone can basically use the pool more or less equally. And when the pool is empty, nobody can use it anymore, which brings a lot of complexity and constraints, but also brings a lot of feature. And yeah, I guess it's worth discussing, because if you guys will want to veto it, which would be fine, I guess, then I can stop testing RC delegations and build a simpler version. Or we could do it in two ways: build simple delegation and then RC pools.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I think the simple delegation, then look at RC pools later, might be the best approach, because that way we get something that's simple and safe working, and then see if we need something more complicated after. Just thinking about it now, I haven't spent a lot of time on this, but that's my first thought. If we've got a simple approach that we think will solve most of the problems, and we know it's fairly, straightforward in terms of implementation and low risk, might be a good way to start.
Yeah, the risk is definitely lower. I think we just need to spend a bit of time thinking of if that covers enough cases or not.
I think that's, absolutely. That should be the first thing done. Definitely.
So
I mean, obviously that's more than something we can do in a conversation here, but we can take it.
I just wanted to know if you had some thoughts on it or not.
Yeah, I mean, that's my first thought is, if there's simple, let's look at the simple for now and see if it, let's see if it covers the cases.
Yeah, and I guess if it's simple delegations, then we can ship that sooner, so that's also a win.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll think about it and save that. Like I'll try to think of a few. I'll probably make like a table or something to see.
Yeah, like the use cases.
Use case, yes, no, yes, no. And
sounds like a good idea.
And like pull a bit of the community and see about this.
I have a question on this one, if you have a bit of time to discuss. Yeah. So basically, if we just handle the simple delegation, the simple version, maybe we can do this for the next fork, or is still too much work to do before we freeze the code?
I can answer that, I guess. I think it's I mean, I know Blackface will say no, so I'll just say it. So
I have a question on this one.
It's no for two reasons, basically. The first reason is yes, it's too much work, because I would be making that from scratch. I mean, some of the stuff is already done, but I still need to pretty much bring up a whole new feature from scratch. And
yeah, it's probably a couple weeks minimum. So
yeah, and also like from a design standpoint, we want to avoid. We have the luck of being able to ship that as a soft fork, so that limits the danger of running hard fork 25 with too many features that might break. So let's say we ship hard fork 25 in like a month, and then we can during that month we develop our delegations, and we build like a second testnet that runs in parallel, and we can ship it in like 2 weeks after hard fork 25. Most of the people won't even realize that the 2 weeks were there, and we as witnesses / exchange / stakeholders get to avoid a lot of risk on the chain. So that's pretty much it. Unless you want to.
I'm in full agreement there.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the good thing is that simple, let's call it RC delegations light, like SMT light, like Steve did once upon a time, would definitely be a good first step, and then we can see. And once again, we can. I think I can probably do that in a few weeks. So we should be. I mean, 2 weeks, then review, then ship. But we should be able to ship that very quickly after hard fork 25.
Yeah, and also I think the implementation at the library level will also be pretty straightforward for that.
Yeah, because then there is no slots. There is, instead of 3 operations.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, the UI is going to be a lot simpler. It's gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of thinking how we will transition from that model to the pool model, if we ever do, which may require like both systems to kind of exist.
Yeah, that's probably what would happen, I think.
But yeah, something to keep in mind.
Yep.
And yeah, that's pretty much everything I had for this meeting. It's a pretty fast one.
Yeah, that's all I got too. So we're just to reiterate, we're looking probably at Wednesday launch of the testnet, and we'll do 2 weeks of testing, I guess, and then at that point notify exchanges, give them 30 days that way, and I really want to notify the exchanges once they can basically download and build it. So that means we'd merge to master in 2 weeks from roughly Wednesday, 2 weeks from Wednesday.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, that works. I'm just reading the current comments on recurrent transfers to see if there is anything we need to talk about.
It looks like it's all stuff we already covered. Oh, you're reading the YouTube ones. Actually, I don't have access to that. So.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, on the YouTube. That's only the first vote reaction. After that, people will vote and vote for witnesses different time through the year. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, no question on the on YouTube, so we should be fine there as well.
Okay.
And yeah, Bartek, I put my list of changes, so you can re-review, and that should be fine. Hopefully.
Yes, we'll do. I hope that everything was covered, what I asked. So
Yes,
I think it will be merged tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Yes, if everything is fine.
Oh, okay. There is the if.
We're hoping to launch the testnet on Wednesday, so let's hope we get everything merged in tomorrow.
I know.
That makes sense. Yeah. Actually, I got one question regarding the way we number the virtual operations. I think it's Andre that added that changed it, and basically because before we basically got a hexadecimal number and we multiplied it by 2 every time, and then the next one ended in a 0, where usually we just like increment by 1. So I'm wondering if I should start by at 1 or 2. But I guess this can be taken offline. It'll make more sense.
Okay. Yeah, if it's multiplied by 2, it's probably so that they could be filtered by a bit mask or something.
Yes, I think this is related to the bitwise filtering implemented in
operations,
history API.
Yeah,
and since we have a lot of virtual operations at the moment, the usual integer constant was not sufficient to represent it.
Yeah, especially going forward, because we could see it
also,
growing and growing.
Also, there was added some subsequent numbering to the operation definitions. You probably have seen it in the comments, just to suggest new authors that they should not change order of such operations, because can break other libraries. So this is so small suggestion that you are doing something wrong if you have to change every line after your new one.
Yeah, I saw the comments, but I always add at the end anyways, so that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, should be fine. But yeah, okay. Apart from that, I think it's only small things on the as the next trigger date things. So on that we should be fine as well. I put it private in the end. And yeah, okay, that's all for me.
Okay, sounds good. Talk to you guys later. Thanks.
Yeah. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.